Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session presented by K-Rise System and Womble Company, Inc. They will be presenting Low Code and JDE Orchestrator, the perfect match for mobile and web applications. So for those of you who are not familiar with HUG, let me do a quick introduction. We are the Houston Regional Area User Group for Oracle customers, Oracle certified business partners, and third-party vendors. We represent JD Edwards Enterprise One and JD Edwards World Software users. HUG decided to join the network of virtual events to provide the JDE community a set of continuous education to advance the effective utilization of JD Edwards and Oracle products, and to promote free interchange of information and ideas virtually during the pandemic time. So before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you all would know how to participate in today's event. So you will have the opportunity to submit all your questions to our presenters today by typing your questions into the questions pane at the lower part of your screen, of your control panel. So you may send in the questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect those questions and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Also, please stand by. We will have a raffle at the end of the presentation. We are giving away a fantastic gift, so please stay with us. Now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our presenters. We'll start with Grant. Grant, take it away.
Thank you, Melody. Just want to do a quick introduction of Bryan and myself. So Bryan's the IT operations manager at Womble Company Incorporated. He's been at Womble for over 10 years and been working on JD Edwards since 1999. Bryan has worked on both sides of the fence in IT management at multiple companies running JDE and on the vendor side for over 6 years. Bryan has considerable expertise in the manufacturing, distribution, and financial modules of JD Edwards. And in his free time, Bryan serves on the board of directors of Quest and is the incoming treasurer of Quest in 2021. I myself am the director of sales and marketing for the platform of K-Rise Systems. I have spent most of my career selling low-code development platforms to companies ranging from the smallest mom and pops to Fortune 50 organizations throughout the United States and Europe. I've spoken at events around the world and am very excited to spend some time with Bryan today and letting him tell you guys his story on how he went to Orchestrator and Low Code together. So that said, let's talk about what we're going to cover. So first things first, let's talk about the challenge. What was the challenge that Bryan had to overcome? Searching for the technology partner that could work with him and his organization, what they did with the POC and Orchestrator and K-Rise working together. What's next for Womble? We'll do a quick intro to K-Rise if there's time. We want to make sure there's time for Q&A, so that will be the only thing that gets sandwiched if necessary. Bryan, the floor is yours. We look forward to it.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. A little bit about the Womble Company. Womble's a family-owned pipe coating company that's been around since 1972. We're housed on over 300 acres of outdoor storage, which includes our Sheffield main office, our main yard, our west yard, our north yard, and our Greensport shipping terminal location. We have 3 other locations, one at Kelly Street off of 610 in Houston, and we have one at Highway 90 and one at Sheldon Road. We own no inventory, but as you can see, we take up a lot of acreage for inventory that we don't own. Our customers ship us material that we store for them. We coat it, put anti-abrasive coatings on it for the oil and gas industry predominantly, and we keep it in our yard until they send in a release, which is what we'll talk about further as we get into this. As of this morning, we have over 325,000 pieces of individually serialized customer-owned inventory sitting across our facilities. just to give you an idea as to how big or how vast some of our facilities are, this is our main yard with a view out towards the Houston Ship Channel. The main yard is over 100 acres in storage. It houses not only bare pipe and coated pipe, but our 3 FBE and ARO coating plants, our cement plant, receiving racks, rail car access, and even a barge dock. Plant 1 can apply fusion bind epoxy and abrasive resistant overlay, which can accommodate pipe as large as 26 inches in diameter and up to 65 feet in length. Plant 2, we also do fusion bond epoxy and ARO, and it can only accommodate joints up to 12 inches in diameter or 58-foot lengths. Plant 3, which is our newest plant and our most up-to-date capacity-wise, can do anything from a coating run of 12-inch to 48-inch diameters with up to 100-foot lengths of pipe. The cement plant, which is where all of our concrete weight coating is applied for material that is going to be used in water applications typically. That plant is actually on the facility, sits outside of our plant 2 in our main yard. At our Kelly Street facility, we also run non-pipe product, and those items are all lot controlled. Those are things like connectors, elbows, flat sheets, angle irons, red iron. If it can be powder coated or fusion bond epoxy coated, that's what we do for customers. So take a look at this and kind of keep a visual image of this in your mind. This is at our main office. This is our truck holding area. It's a little over 4 acres. This is a picture on a day when we weren't very busy, pre-pandemic. As you can see, we probably have 40 or 50 trucks. The trucks with the material, the pipe already loaded on it, that's inbound material coming in to be received into JD Edwards, to be stored and to be processed at a later time. The empty trucks are trucks that are here to pick up material, or as we call it in the industry, it is a shipping release. Just a quick picture of a little bit about what we do every day. So the top left picture is pipe that's actually going through the heaters and to get the moisture out of the pipe before it can go through and be coated through the coating booth on the top right side. Left side is our Kelly Street facility on the bottom. That pipe has been both fusion bond epoxy coated, and it's been sprayed with a zap wrap, as it's called. That's completely a manual process. In the middle is a picture of our concrete weight coating facility. That is a completely outdoor process. And then again, on the bottom right, that's our Kelly Street facility where we have the ability to do taped product, if you will. So it's blasted, it's coated, and then it's wrapped with protective paint. So we apply both internal and external pipeline coating systems. And since the company was founded in 1972, and we are a family-owned business, we're owned by a minority-owned business. We're owned by a female owner. We've coated enough pipe to circle the earth almost 4 times completely. So let's talk about Womble and JD Edwards. We went live on JD Edwards 8/12 in June of 2011. I started with the company in 2010, having been at that time working for a business partner and was actually leading their Edwards implementation. It was a new install. A lot of challenges. Today we're running Edwards 9.2. We're on tools release 9.235. Primarily, we did that specifically for the Orchestrator and the advantages that Orchestrator gives us for being able to move data in and out of the system, to be able to make changes or to be able to support the needs of the business without a development staff. We support our 8 locations, 300 acres of outdoor storage, with myself and 4 other people that work for me. And of those 4, one of them's only been in our department as a business analyst trainee, roughly for the last 6 months. Actually, he came into the department in March and then almost immediately got sent to work from home. So it's been kind of a challenge getting him trained up, as I'm sure many of you have faced in your own businesses. We're currently testing tools release 9243 so that we can get to the latest Orchestrator Studio, specifically so that we have the ability to do some debugging in line with it, with the product, because anybody who's run Orchestrator and not on the latest 924 release and the latest Orchestrator Studio can attest to what I'm telling you. Trying to debug it is almost impossible. So we also run DSI Global, their DC Link product, as our data collection solution. Myself and my team, we support 125 handheld scanners, 35 Zebra printers. We have an Aruba Wi-Fi network that sits across all of our 320 plus acres. We have 78 access points that are from Aruba, 67 of which are solar powered. We also have had a need for building portable units. So these are literally solar panels with the battery backup, the components, the mast. Our mast will crank up to 25 feet in the air, and then the access point itself. We also run Insight software as Hubble Analytics, their reporting and their scheduling software. A number of our larger customers have portal access to their material in our facilities in a real-time method. We don't own any material. Again, we have 325,000 pieces of serialized pipe, and we know the length of each one of those serialized pieces of pipe. We know the location. We have 2,100 outdoor storage locations. They're all a GPS marker. So we are tasked with managing and owning that inventory from the time we receive it until we've done a coding process to it and we ship it out, or until they sell it to another customer, or they ship it out bare for, whatever their project needs may be. We used to have a staff of 3 full-time individuals supporting just customer requests on the status of their inventory. Now today, they have the ability to see that firsthand themselves. So let's talk about the challenges we faced, what the business drivers have been. And, this is just a brief list, but the biggest issue that we faced, especially pre-pandemic, when it was so busy, and when I say busy, it was not uncommon for us to have 125 to 150 trucks show up at our yard, many times unannounced, to pick up pipe. And many times on those same days, we would have another 50 to 100 delivering pipe. So it became quite a challenge. We never had any real visibility about what personnel, what equipment to load trucks or to unload trucks was required by facility. Unfortunately, that led to long wait times for the trucks. Now, our customers typically don't have their own logistics teams. They are generally all contracted third-party carriers that have been sent in to pick up material. So what was happening is the longer, they waited to get loaded, especially after the e-logging went into effect by the federal government for over-the-road truck drivers, the less available drive time they had during the day. As you might imagine, it led to many frustrated customers. And when I say many, I personally know, the operations team, myself from a technology and support perspective, people who had access to their portals, customers will call us just wanting to be able to get answers as to where their trucks were, why the delay, what's taking so long, why can't, we flip these trucks. And as in any business, a frustrated, upset, or angry customer, they don't care about the other 100 customers. They only care the other 100 shipments. They only care about theirs. So what that eventually led to was, customer chargebacks for truck detention because of the delay in getting them loaded and getting them out the door and the extra time required to get it to its destination on a job site. They felt that they had no choice but to charge us for this. And that's really what, started us down this road of a mandate that I received from our president. it always worries me when he shows up before 9 a.m. and he calls me to his office and says, I was thinking. So first thing he said is, we need a mobile app. Mobile app has to allow our customers to submit their sales order, which is, in this case, it's a sales order release. It's their request to release material that they have in our possession. Next thing he said is, it has to be easy to use. And oh, by the way, I want it to run on any phone, any tablet, any desktop, anywhere that they can connect to the internet. I want them to be able to run it, completely agnostic of what the operating system was of the device that they were going to run this on. Oh yeah, don't forget, we have customers that are going to send us, PDFs. They're going to send us Excel spreadsheets. We're going to have to figure out a way to pick that data off with, an OCR reading solution or software, so that we're not sitting here asking our customers to be able to, do this twice, to change their systems, to, have to accommodate getting their material out of our yard. And then when you're finished with that, make sure that it's flexible enough that we can continue to grow this. And he immediately rattled off 10 additional applications that he wants as soon as we get this first application up and running and out in front of our customers. I'm sitting there thinking, well, what else could he ask for, right? So we talked about it a little bit, and he was adamant about it, that we had to be able to do this. We had to find a way to use technology to not only help our customers, but to add to our bottom line by being able to effectively schedule those resources and to get out of these chargebacks we were seeing. So the next challenge became the right technology partner. And this is, everybody's buzzword is mobile, mobile, mobile. How can you do it? First requirement was, it must be a partner that has experience integrating to JD Edwards and an Oracle database. Next requirement, again, his requirement, it must be easy. Again, as I stated earlier, we have no development staff. Couldn't take months to complete. Absolutely couldn't take months to complete. Cost had to be effective. It had to make sense for us as a business. And of course, we have to be able to maintain it and develop it internally. I don't know. Did I tell you he wanted more apps and we have no developers? Again, you get that first thing on a Monday morning, and it just makes you kind of step back and wonder what we can do and how effectively can we do this. So my next step was to really start to dig into Orchestrator, and worked with our shipping department, and we recorded the release entry process. Unfortunately, the release entry process is some custom applications. It's P42101 that we use with a custom wrapper around it for some custom requirements for this industry and for our business. And at a high level, if a customer says, I'm going to send you 10,000 feet of pipe, and I only want you to coat 5,000 feet, and when you receive the material, if you receive it at an average of 42.1 feet, if your receipt is going to be more than 10,042 feet, you have to notify them before you're allowed to modify their order and receive that material. If when you go to coat that material, you coat more than 5,042 feet based upon a 42.1 linear foot average length at time of receipt, everything's fine and they'll pay you for it. If you were to coat 5,043 feet, they'll kick your invoice back and tell you that, I'm sorry, we didn't approve that extra joint to be coated. So you either coat it at your expense, you strip it and put it, re-lacquer it and put it back into our bare pile, or, many times they'll just take it because they know they're going to need it for a job. So the search begins. We started with Orchestrator. We got the orchestration working with, a partner that we use for support, but it just wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be fluid because every release that we receive has special shipping instructions, which is a text media object attachment, which at the time the orchestrator did not support. About half of what we receive also has special Mark IV instructions for the bill of lading, which is a separate media object attachment that doesn't even get attached to the 4211 sales order record. It gets attached to this tracking record that is a part of the customizations we did to, in fact, allow us to not overship or overcoat material for a customer. So we had to, working with our partner who worked quite a bit hand in hand with AJ Schifano and Daryl Shakespeare and that group at Oracle to help us figure out how to get this to work. Then we finally had a base orchestration that when we ran it would allow us to submit data into JD Edwards without anybody from our shipping department having to key that information in. So as we start to interview these companies, we probably talked to a half a dozen of them. And two of them that we had narrowed it down to, they specialized in mobile apps. And these two companies also were companies that were brought to me from the president of our company because he's friends with the owners of those two software firms. One was going to write the application for us, quote, for free, if we would allow them to then resell that as a part of an application service that they had for the oil and gas industry. Their free wound up being about $225,000 our cost. The second company was much more reasonable, I guess, but you know, the first company, we knew they could do it. Again, the cost was very prohibitive. They had experience with oil and gas based upon their own application. So we got to the next company that he brought in after we had eliminated others. They were less expensive, but I also had very little confidence that they could do what we needed them to do. We agreed to pay for a proof of concept, but they didn't feel comfortable going down a proof of concept path. They wanted us to sign a contract for a single application for more than $75,000 and a 6-month lead time. So that didn't meet the criteria of we can support it, we can modify it, we can turn it out pretty quickly in a very short time frame, and it was cost effective. So then last August, when we were allowed to meet face to face at events, walking through the vendor showcase in Denver, Colorado at the Infocus event, and I see the K-Rise booth. And the sign that they had posted in their booth, it stuck with me. It says, "Give us 5 minutes and you'll develop your first mobile app." And I kept walking, and I turned around, walked back, and I said, "All right, tell me about this." And they said, "Do you have 5 minutes?" And I said, "No, I really don't, but I'll send one of my team members over." So one of my team members actually went over, and we caught up a little bit later, and they said, literally in about 5 minutes, I was able to go through their, scripted process, if you will, but I was able to create a mobile app, and it worked pretty slick. So I went back and actually met Grant for the first time at that event. And so we started talking, and I told him what, we were up against and what our requirements were and how, this would help us from a business perspective. And so we agreed that we would catch up after the event was over, and we would go through a full-blown demonstration of what their capabilities were and what they could do for us. And then, if I liked what I saw, we could get down to, what it was going to take to be able to deliver this application. So after speaking to Grant, after seeing a demo of what they had to offer, we start looking at, some of the challenges we had ahead of us. Well, I know there's some people on the call that know me personally who know about our business, and they know very well that, Womble employees are not open to change very often. So just to get them to buy into this concept was very difficult. And when I say difficult, it was take the shipping manager to the president's office, have the president explain to him This is a corporate initiative mandated by the president to be driven by shipping and IT in order to be able to have better visibility to our labor and equipment requirements for outbound shipments. And of course, COVID hit. We are an essential business, so we were technically always working, but March the 20th, the decision was made we would not work full-time in the office. Department by department had to decide, were you working in the office? If you were, people had to be socially distanced. You had to be, keep the business covered at all times. So I sent my BAs home and said, you guys work from home. You can do your job from anywhere. Had one of my network engineers in, every other day. I was here 2 or 3 days every week. So that lasted until the 18th of May, and we've been everybody, all hands on deck, if you will, everybody back in the office full time since. Then the orchestrator challenges, and I briefly brought up a couple of them as it pertained to the application itself, as it pertained to the inability to attach text media object attachments, and just frankly, it was a lot of learning. Again, I have no developers. We wanted to try to be able to learn the tool set, which we started in, last year, and we've gradually gotten it to the point where, we're pretty good at it, to the extent that we have a number of things that we are beta testing with customers at this point. So, the biggest challenge, these are 3 of them. Again, the recorder, the media object attachments, and the fact that, this one object actually is not a single object. It's 42, 101. It's a couple of custom applications. As a part of the way it is designed and set up, it actually then calls a third object, which goes out and verifies that it's not a duplicate release for that customer, for that release number and that purchase order. And then it submits that job. And so we had a number of challenges to overcome. The longest part really was, getting around the orchestrator and the orchestrator challenges. And then, to the president's requirement that we've got to address customer concerns, because we started, if you will, pre-selling the notion and the idea to customers, and everybody loved it, with the exception of, well, what about the form that I send you? Are you telling me I'm going to have to log into another system? I'm going to have to duplicate my effort to be able to send you, the printed custom form from our SAP system or from our dynamic system, or some of our customers run old green screen solutions and they're running, they'll send it to us in an Excel spreadsheet. And some customers, like I said, they'll send PDFs. Some are sending it in Excel, but nobody wanted to do the work twice. So I picked up the phone and I called Grant and I said, I seem to recall you telling me that you guys could help me with this. So we started talking about it, and we started talking about a proof of concept and what that proof of concept may look like. And we very quickly got to the point that, it's, I don't know, maybe a dozen fields, maybe 14 or 15 fields in total of data that we're asking them to be picked off of forms or be entered by the application to be able to populate the sales order to get it to go through the process properly. So next we had a call with Grant and a couple of his developers that were going to work on our proof of concept. And I think that call took all of about 45 minutes. And after they had finished asking their questions and we had asked our questions, I think it was Jeremy who was on the call with us, said, we'll get back to you. Stay tuned. So unfortunately, I was still fighting the challenges with our internal shipping team. They just are resistant to change, and that's just the nature of this industry. So I don't know, a little while later that day, I get an email and I open it up and I'm reading this email. I'm thinking, what, is this a joke? Certainly these guys aren't serious, right? So my joke let me tell you about this. Little did I know, the joke was on me. I went back and researched this. It was really about 4 hours after we hung up the phone that I got this email. Within the email, there was a link for the app. And they said, click the link, run it from a phone, run it from a tablet, run it from your desktop, run it from a laptop. We don't care. Just run it and tell us what you think. Tell us how we did. Again, this is less than 4 hours after we had started. So I go through it and I run it at my desktop. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. And take the desktop off the network and I'm using it as my laptop and ran it again. And that's pretty cool. And so I take my iPad, my personal iPad, and go out and hit this link and I walk over to the shipping department and our shipping manager starts playing with it and he starts pushing data in and he said, yeah, it's pretty slick. So I sent him the link and he tried it on his phone. And so we start talking about it and he says, okay, but is it right? And I said, well, you have the ability to sign into our CRP environment. You can check the data. You know what orders you entered, because one of the things we created within the orchestration is the shipping department gets an email telling them that this new release has been entered and it's pending their review and approval. So I go back to my desk and I check the 4 orders that we had just went through and entered, and lo and behold, as promised, all of the data for all of the fields in all of the tables, including the first requirement of getting the shipping notes written as a media object attachment, all of that went in just fine. So ask the shipping manager, what do you think? And he comes back with, yeah, but what about the customers? Obviously he had been talking to our president about this need for the PDF extracts and the Excel extracts. So in speaking to Grant, he said, oh, that's easy. So Grant, you want to take a minute and talk about the gallery and what they're seeing here?
Sure. So what you're seeing here is the EASYProcess gallery. And what we do with EASYProcess gallery is we put in components, documents, applications, and tutorials. So we had an OCR service that did, 60% of what Bryan wanted to do, but we wanted to enhance it so his team could manage it without having to do anything, hyper specific. So if you look here on the top left, you see this OCR template. And so what we did to say is, all right, we like this idea. We think it's good and it has legs. We're going to give it to you and we're going to put it in our gallery. That means any one of our customers can have it as well. So that's what we did. It took us, I don't know, about a day or so. And we got it up and loaded, and you can see the gallery has a bunch of other stuff that I'll talk about in a little bit. But that's how we could get a new piece of functionality to him and to the rest of our customer base in about one day.
Thanks, Grant.
Sure.
All right. What's next for Womble as it pertains to not only the orchestrator, but more importantly, the EASYProcess and the additional requirements that we have? Again, we have no development team, but I do have a senior BA and my CNC network engineer who is eager and chomping at the bit to learn the product. So, I went through, I guess, as a byproduct of the COVID work from home initiative, I was able to go through all of the e-learning online. My systems engineer that supports all of our Edwards and the third-party solutions around Edwards, he has started through it and he started as well. And literally the tutorials are simple and they walk you through how to create, apps and how to expand on the apps. And so we're going to head down that process so that we have multiple people that can be working on multiple things at any given time. We've got the KRI support, and I will tell you that, if they're all as good as the first few I've worked with, I've got no concerns whatsoever that, we'll be able to quickly learn it and quickly learn and understand how to debug it or how to figure out if we have an issue or if something isn't working exactly the way that we would have expected it to be working. They being KRIs, we sent them 2 different examples of customer PDF documents and 2 different Excels from 2 different customers, and they've done that mapping for us as our template and our guide. And we're going to learn in working with them and going through some, hand in hand, we're going to learn how to create those mappings and how to set those PDF and Excel extracts up, if you will, to push that data then through a JSON data feed through the orchestration into JD Edwards. So we have some customers that we've started working with as a beta test group. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic and the reduced requirements for oil and gas, everybody is really way down and suffering this year. So we've been a little slow in getting it rolled out. We've got customers that are ready to go. We've had some send some just as test into our CRP environment. So as soon as our upgrade to 9.2.4 tools release is finished, we're going to promote this product, this release application into production and start testing with our beta group. Again, we've got customers that are going to do all of the above. Some that are going to send us PDFs, some that'll send us the Excels, and some that are actually going to use the mobile app and give us their feedback on that. An important note about the extraction from PDF and Excel, the way that it is configured and set up through the EASYProcess is that we just are instructing our customers to add an additional email address, internal Womble email address, to the email when they submit it to us. And based upon that, then the process is running in the background, and any email that comes in, it can go out there and it can pick that information up, pick those forms or those spreadsheets out of those emails. And then based upon having a map already built for that customer, it can pick that data off and submit it. And then, of course, it's the old iterative figure 8, right? So we'll release it, we'll get customers to test it and give us their feedback, and we'll continue to revise it and make it easier for them, if you will, which ultimately will make it easier for us and everybody involved. And then just a full general release to all of our customers. We're hoping that'll occur by end of Q1 once we've been through all the beta cycles with the different customers that we're dealing with. Next steps. I said earlier that, when I was speaking to our president, he had a number of things he wanted us to do. So one of the things he'd like is that we integrate this to, a calendar so that we can, from an operations perspective, have a look at what's required personnel and equipment wise by yard, by requesting and instructing our customers that they need to send us those releases and a minimum of 36 hours in advance, so we have an opportunity to plan accordingly. Forms elimination. This is a big one. So when I said he had 10, these are 9 that we talked about immediately. There's QC documents. There are inbound truck forms or outbound truck forms. They're all done manually. They're all written up manually. And the goal here will be to capture the information into a database, generate an output that we can then attach to the appropriate, I guess I would say, sales order detail line or work order in a PDF format that will have the ability to capture this and have it then attached within JD Edwards. And then the 10th one, I did say initially he had 10. The 10th one is he wants to be able to build a quote application so our customers can request quotes without having to send an email or place a phone call to us. So from there, just as a quick recap, it was an initial meeting in Denver, a WebEx demo a couple of weeks later, a few phone calls with Grant. I was sold when Grant said, "Remember, I'm a sales guy and I can do this," and he showed me he could do it. So I figured if he was able to do it, my people are smart enough, and that we all ought to be able to do it as well. So not to say that Grant isn't smart, because he knows his stuff. The sales order entry orchestration was done. We scheduled the call for the proof of concept, and as I said, 4 hours later, we had a working mobile app. So the kind of the running joke that we have between Grant and myself is it took longer to get the contract reviewed by my one person in-house legal counsel than it took to get the app developed, written, and ready for test. With that, I'm going to finish up, and Grant, you can go right ahead.
All right, so if I'll share my screen if you can unshare yours.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. All right, I assume you can see my screen now.
Yep.
It looks very similar to the one you had. So, let's get back to the kind of the litmus of this. Why Orchestrator and Low Code, right? And we talk about roadblocks to innovation. Like how can we innovate better? How can we do more with less? That's something Bryan says to me a lot. We need to do more with less, and that's probably because something his president says to him. There's two aspects to it. There's the complexity of integration, right, and the paradox of choice. The integration piece is, JD Edwards is not. It's a very mature product, and before Orchestrator, there was business functions and BSSV, and there was a lot of moving parts to that. And the paradox of choice being, once I actually can figure out how to integrate to it, what am I going to do next? How am I going to develop this application? And there are so many different choices. And this slide is probably 6 months old, and most of this has already been supplanted by other things. There's thousands of frameworks being developed every single day. IT professionals chase more trends than fashion people do. It's difficult to do. So, Orchestrator can handle that left-hand side. And we have customers, multiple customers, who we've done projects with that flat out would not be able to do it without Orchestrator, because they have manipulated parts of the internals of their JD Edwards implementation over the years. They've made some significant changes, and without Orchestrator, they couldn't have done it. And what we offer is the elimination of that paradox, is giving you a way to develop applications without you constantly having to chase the latest framework or platform or language or tech. And blending those two together can make for an incredibly synergistic opportunity for a team that has developers, or a team like Bryan's that doesn't have a lot of developers. So quickly going over our architecture. So when we look at this, we see enterprise applications, and we don't want you to have to replicate anything, data, logic, anything. So we do our best when we connect EASYProcess to your systems, and our system's entirely cloud-based. So there's very little support you need to do from an infrastructure perspective. We try to connect to all of it, but let's hone in. We do a lot of applications for people, but JD Edwards is just part of their ecosystem. And they're writing composite applications because they have custom written order entry or custom written shipping systems or multiple ERPs, and Edwards is one of them. But let's wind this down or just hone this in just to JD Edwards. So what do I mean when we connect? What do we connect to in JD Edwards? Well, we can connect directly to the data dictionary and the tables. We can access all the business functions you have on site, BSSV. We can connect to Orchestrator. Obviously, wouldn't be doing this webinar right now. Named event rules, status codes, Julian date conversions, media objects, UDCs, and Z files. So we can connect to all of the goodness that you have, that Oracle has put on 30 years of harmonized application code, a mature database, the best integration points available. So we give you access to all of that through the platform itself. And when you're writing custom applications, and a lot of people who haven't, DevOps is critically important. We have DevOps all built in. So project management, task assignment, task tracking, source control, production monitoring is all there. So you can design an application, you can assign tasks to different developers, you can have an instant health check. We have a task list that will tell anyone where every project is at any one point in time without having to even talk to anyone. And in a world now where no one seems to be in an office, the more you can report on, the better off you are. So on top of that, we have a logic engine, a workflow engine, a data modeler, and the UI UX designer. None of this is writing code. It's all drag and drop. If you know how to put a workflow together, you can do our logic. Our workflow engine itself is incredibly robust and allows you to do a ton of stuff, and it has built-in reporting. You can create your own tables if you don't want to use the Z files or the current JDE tables. If you have more information that you need to store, we can do that too. And the UI UX is really easy drag and drop, putting controls on a screen. all of these are separated. So I can change the logic without changing the UX. I can change the workflow without changing the UX. So you can be incredibly agile in your development world and still not having to understand all the complexities behind it. We have our gallery, which I'll get to in a second. And we also have a set of pre-built applications that we actively market. Everything you build here can be deployed as mobile or native applications, as RESTful services, and as batch jobs. And none of this involves coding. So our platform will connect to everything that you have that's good inside JD Edwards. And everything that you write doesn't involve code. So you look at your IT team and say, I can, with a CNC or a business analyst, I can start writing mobile applications, knowing they're connected to our database, knowing they can do all the status code changes, Julian date conversions. I can connect to Z files, and I can build pretty much anything I want, whether it's for users, it's headless, or it's a batch job running in the back, as well as robust workflow applications, because forms and workflow in this era of automation is more critical than ever. And the last piece I want to talk to you before we get to questions is our gallery. And our gallery started with us as a company. We've been around for 16 years, doing a lot of the same projects over and over again, doing a lot of the same things over and over again. And it got us to thinking. It got us to think, what can we do to make this better? What can we do to bring the JD Edwards community closer together, to allow them to digitally transform faster together than apart? So let's just look at this slide, and I think this will be probably the last slide I give. All right, here is a company running JD Edwards. This little blue circle that you see is an idea they have, an idea for an application that they bought EASYProcess for. Well, here are all these other companies running JD Edwards. What if this company's idea is the same as this company's idea? What if we can connect them together? So he can share his idea in gallery, and this company can actually use it. And then other customers can share their unique ideas. They're things that they've done to innovate. They're things that they've done to automate or make things easier. What if we can do all of this together? What if it becomes so easy to do that we can start digitally transforming the entire JD Edwards community one step at a time, one simple program at a time, one easy way to do this at a time, and share all this together? Because there's no point in doing this at an island. You're all running JD Edwards. Why can't we do it together? Furthermore, about JD Edwards and low code, they want you to try it. They want you to try low code applications. This is from their July presentation at Collaborate. So that said, we want you to try it. If you go to our website and click on Community Edition or click on Try for Free, you can try our product for free. We will connect it to your instance of JD Edwards. You will have access to the gallery that we have. You can actually go live with applications if you want to, with less than 10 users. I mean, some of the things that we have in there, completed applications, there's a CRM, there's a PO planner application, there's some AP automation, there's a couple others that are actually there, working applications that are already connected to JDE tables. Once we set it up for you, you can be running with a mobile CRM app. If you have less than 10 sales reps, there's no charge whatsoever. Now, based on time, I'm going to skip this quick tour of EASYProcess, and we can get to that in a little bit. But I will move one more slide over, because if you wanted to see a quick tour of EASYProcess, this Thursday, 2 days from now, we are having an event where I'm going to go into gallery. I'm going to pick a project from gallery. I'm going to enhance it, and I'm going to put it into production. It's going to take about 10 minutes. So if you want to know more about how gallery works, how our development cycle works, how our DevOps works, and how easy this is to do, this Thursday at 11 a.m. Central, we're having an event for this. Now, I'll go back, and we can start, and Melody, I'll ask you, do we have any questions?
Great presentation, guys. Yes, we do. We do have some questions here. So let's get started with the first question. I see here a question. How long have you been using Orchestrator?
Well, we started with Orchestrator, probably just started, we installed that tools release. I believe, if I remember correctly, we put that tools release in that 7.2, I think was the first one in December maybe of 18, just to start to play with it and figure out how we might be able to use it. Then we did the 7.2.3.5. So I would say for production purposes and really getting to know it and understand it, we really got to that point, just within the past, just here's in 2020. We probably installed it in, I'm trying to think backwards when we did this, because we did go through 2 different iterations and we're on our 3rd tools release with it. So it could be as far back as early or late, like December of 18, maybe we put the very first tools release in that incorporated the orchestrator, and then in 19 we upgraded again, and I know that one was in July, and then so we're on the next one. But it let's just say we started in earnest after we met last August in with Grant and the guys in Denver. We really only just kind of playing with it to learn how to extract data or to push data. And we really didn't have a need at that point until the president came up with these requirements for us. So if I were to put a time frame on it, it's probably been about a little over a year, maybe 15, 16 months since we really first started it and started playing with it. It takes some getting used to if you're not a developer, especially.
Perfect. Good answer. Next question here. How are you overcoming resistance to change with the internal staff? Any tips?
Well, this one was a little easier than most because this was a mandate from our president, right? So the interesting thing was it was really only the manager. So instead of me trying to convince him repeatedly that we had to do this or we were doing this, as I said, I just walked him to the president's office and we sat down and had the conversation about it, and he still wasn't sold. So then in speaking to our president, I let him know that, I was just going to work around the manager, and I went to the staff. And of course, the staff who are here many times 12, 14, 16 hours a day when we're extremely busy, they were more than happy to help. So sometimes you have to work with those people. Sometimes you have to get support from above, and that's probably the best approach. And then other times you have to work, directly with those people. But he was very unwilling. But I will say, to his credit, and Grant can attest to this, he's probably added about 5 more requirements to this application to make it a better application, both for the Womble Company and our customers. So once he saw the value in it, and it took months to get him there, but once he saw the value in it, he's really been supportive of it.
Perfect. On to the next question here. Did you ever consider using business functions for the project?
Well, again, we did not, because we don't have a lot of expertise in-house, and I'm trying to get out of the day-to-day having to be the guy doing the work. I'm trying to get my people to do it, and because of their lack of experience or expertise in that area, none of my people have ever been developers or have ever done any development work whatsoever. So we have no developer, and obviously with COVID and the state of the business, spending money was at a premium. So, it had to be something that we could justify. And I felt like the EASYProcess was something we could all learn, and we could do it that way. But Grant, I'll let you also speak to that. You guys do use business functions, right?
We do. And in a lot of the projects, we use both. We use business functions and orchestrator. So it just depends. It's a customer to customer. It's really a comfort level thing. Some people, there's a lot of people who really know business functions well, and they're somewhat resistant to orchestrator. But the thing is, in our world, a call business function service and a call orchestrator service are 2 mutually exclusive things. And I can create a mobile app So let's say you wanted to use business functions. I can create a mobile app and create a service that says call this business function and fetch this data. But 6 months from now, if you have an orchestration written, I can swap out that service for the call orchestrate or for the RESTful service, not without changing anything else, and it'll run. So when you talk about managing a transition of going from business functions to Orchestrator, our platform really adopts well to that transition plan, where you can use what you know now while you're learning Orchestrator, and when you're ready to have that true end-tier environment, that true portable environment with Orchestrator, we're right there, and it's like a 5-minute switch to go from one to the other. You're not redeveloping really anything.
Perfect. I encourage everyone to still put in their questions. We have a few more minutes here. We can take on a few more, and if you don't get to it, Grant and Bryan will take it offline and get back to you guys. So I see this last question. What does EASYProcess cost?
Oh, that's an easy question to answer. Let me just, can you still see my browser now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so here's our website. You can see we like JD Edwards, right? It is broadcast on here. EASYProcess platform pricing. It's all right here. Everything is published that we do. So it's based purely on capacity. So we're hosted in the cloud. So all of the hosting fees are built in. So it is based on users. So if you have a single app that you have less than 20 users for, you're talking about an investment of less than $5,000 a year for the entire application, for gallery, for all the DevOps, support, and the hosting. So we have single app pricing and we have unlimited app pricing. And the break even is about 5. So you can buy a few single apps, but once this starts to mushroom, and they usually do, it's once you put a mobile app out for one department, the next 4 are going to ask. You can go to unlimited, but all the pricing is here. It's really easy to understand. So we're not hiding anything. And that community edition, and I'm not lying, you can go live with it. It comes with 3 environments. So you can develop an application. It comes with all of our education as well. So, but there, if you want to see what our pricing is, that's where it is.
It's easy enough. Thanks so much, Grant. And as we conclude our, just no more question here, as we conclude our session today, thank you guys. That is a powerful story, great presentation. Thank you for sharing that to our audience. And in closing, I want to thank you all for being here and taking the time. Grant, Bryan, you want to say your goodbye to the audience and thanks to their time?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks again to everybody who joined us today and for taking the time to listen in. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You see my email information right there, and I'll get back to you. Thanks again.
Same here. And if you want to know more, if you want to see a live demonstration of what EASYProcess can do, 2 days from now, we are having an event. So feel free to log into that or sign up for that whenever you feel like it. But once again, my contact details are on here also. I really appreciate your time.